Chapter 1. The Spark That Lit the Chart. You're staring at the screen again. Numbers ripple up and down like tides, blinking red and green as if trying to hypnotize you into action. You haven't bought anything today, but your fingers twitch above the keyboard. You're not sure if it's boredom or fear, maybe both. A voice from the past echoes in your mind. Cool, Hungarian, decisive. I never knew how far stock would go. I just tried to let it go as far as it would. Nicolas Darvas. You've read his book more times than you'll admit. That tidy little red volume, How I Made $2 Million in the Stock Market, sits on your desk like a shrine. Not just because of the money, not just because of the fame, but because he understood the battle inside. He made his millions while dancing on stages in Istanbul and Tokyo, sending telegrams to brokers in New York between rehearsals. You, on the other hand, are rooted in a small room, lit by the blue glow of multiple monitors. Still, you feel the kinship. You're not trying to gamble, you're trying to build a method. You want to trade like Darvas. So, what's stopping you? You lean back in your chair. Your eyes are dry. You've scanned dozens of charts. Some look tempting. One stock especially. It broke out of a base yesterday, climbing 5%. You almost hit buy, but your chest tightened. What if it falls back in? You whispered to yourself. What if it's a fake-out? You imagine what Darvas would have done. He wouldn't have hesitated. He would have waited for the signal, his box to be drawn, and once confirmed, he would have jumped in with surgical calm. I only acted when everything was in my favor. You jot that down in your notebook. That's what this is, really. A notebook of repetition, a relearning of how to be calm when everything inside wants to panic. This isn't just about entries and exits. This is about you. You think about your last trade, the one that burned you. It was a penny stock, impulsively bought after reading a forum post full of rocket emojis. You convinced yourself it was about to run. It did. Just far enough to bait you in, then dropped like a stone. You sold at a 35% loss, your stomach folding in on itself like paper. Not because of the money, not really, but because you knew better. Darvas wouldn't have touched that stock with a 10-foot telegram. You're trying to be better. You've written out a system, price confirmation, volume surge, industry momentum, protective stop. You've practiced simulations. You've even journaled your emotions like a trader therapist. But when it's live, the fear is different. There's a candle forming now. That stock you watched earlier, it's pushing higher. You zoom in. It's a classic Darvas box breakout. 2-week range, strong volume, no earnings report. This is the moment where psychology meets system. Darvas called it the point of no return, the point where you commit not to your prediction, but to your process. You exhale. You lower your position size to half what your gut suggests. You place a stop loss 7% below. You double-check the volume spike. It's 80% above average. This is a real move. You click buy. Nothing happens immediately. The candle flickers. A second ticks by. Your palms sweat. You don't feel triumph. You feel exposed. And then, relief. The position is in. Your risk is defined. Your plan is active. There's no more guessing. You write in your notebook, entry, system confirmed, risk accepted, emotions 610 anxious. No deviation from plan. It's dry, clinical, boring even. Just like Darvas would have wanted it. Because the secret to trading success isn't excitement. It's predictability, repetition, boredom. You're not here to thrill yourself. You're here to repeat something effective. You close the chart. Yes, close it. You've set your alerts. You won't watch it tick by tick. That's not trading, that's torment. Instead, you rise, stretch, pour some coffee. You walk past your bookshelf, and your eyes catch the spine of Darvas's book again. You smile, just a little. I became a robot. I did not think. I traded by boxes. I traded with discipline. Today, you became just a bit more robotic, a little less emotional, a little more disciplined. It doesn't feel grand. It feels quiet. But you know it matters, because this is how it starts. 2. The waiting trap. You check the stock once more. It's up slightly, maybe 0.5%. Not enough to thrill, not enough to panic, just enough to tempt. Your finger hovers over the mouse. You want to click. You want to watch it breathe. But you know that's the trap. That's where the brain starts whispering. Maybe I should take a small profit, just in case. This is the war you weren't prepared for when you first decided to trade. Not the charts, not the numbers, but the creeping uncertainty. The little voice that whispers, take control. Lock in gains. Don't risk being wrong. You remember what Darvas wrote, sitting in hotel rooms after shows, detached from the market by miles of ocean and hours of delay. I let my profits run. I did not take them prematurely. You bite your lip. Letting profits run sounds easy when it's hindsight, when it's in a book. But when it's your own money, and it's now, letting go of control feels like stepping off a ledge. You glance back at your trading notebook, the one where you track not just numbers, but thoughts. You force yourself to write the sentence, price moving sideways. Temptation to interfere, high, will not act. It feels silly, juvenile even, like a child trying to resist a cookie. But that's exactly what this is. Trading self-control, muscle by muscle. This is the part Darvas didn't dramatize. The part no one wants to write books about. The hours after you enter the trade. The psychological limbo. The waiting. You think about how much time you used to spend staring at charts after buying, as if you could will the price higher with your eyes, as if watching would somehow make you more in control. You remember the first time you made a profit, not the numbers, the feeling, the high, the power rush. You sold too early, of course, but it didn't matter. You felt like you had cracked the code. You even danced around the room. Darvas probably would have laughed at that. Not out of mockery, but recognition. He danced too, only not because of a win, but because of clarity. Process. The coffee's gone cold. The candle's still holding. The stock hasn't moved much. But you notice something else. You're starting to feel okay about that. That's the shift, isn't it? You're beginning to uncouple the trade's result from your personal value. It's just one move, one box, one plan. You didn't bet your ego, just your rules. You check your alert settings. Stop loss? Still active. Profit target? Not yet close. Price action? Still within range. Nothing to do. You whisper it like a mantra. Do nothing. This is your real edge now. Not just spotting breakouts, but sitting through them. Darvas did it with telegrams. He physically couldn't overtrade. He wasn't watching level 2 data or doom-scrolling sentiment analysis. That was his accidental advantage. Yours has to be intentional. You step away again. Pick up a book, not a trading book. Something quiet. Fiction, even. You let yourself breathe. You feel the pull to refresh your screen, but you don't give in. You're breaking a pattern. In the background, an alert pings. You glance. Price has moved up another 2%. It's now nearing your first milestone, just shy of a 4% gain from entry. Your heart rate ticks up. The temptation returns, but now it's dressed as prudence. Maybe I should move the stop up, you think, just to lock something in. But you check the notebook. Let the stop prove itself. No premature adjustment. Trailing stop only after second confirmation. Your own handwriting holds you accountable. This is why you wrote it down. To remind yourself, in moments of emotion, of who you were when you were calm. You don't move the stop. You don't touch the trade. You just wait. You're not doing nothing. You're doing everything. You're building a muscle memory of restraint, of confidence, of trust, not in the market, not in predictions, but in yourself and the rules you made when you were strong. The price ticks higher again. This time you smile, not because you're winning, but because you didn't interfere. You write one last line in your notebook before closing it for the day. Darvas wouldn't check the ticker. Neither will I. You shut the screen. You walk away. And for the first time since you started trading, you're not ruled by the market. You're just part of it. Chapter 3. The Phantom of Doubt. The next morning, you wake before your alarm. You didn't plan to, but your subconscious has clearly been pacing all night. There's a weird sense of urgency in your chest, an unnamed pressure, and you already know why. Your trade. You haven't even opened your charts yet, but your body is asking for answers. Did the stock go up? Did it drop overnight? What if the market reversed and you missed your chance to exit? What if you're too late? Before your hand reaches the mouse, you freeze. You hear the whisper again, the one you've been training yourself to respect. If I am right, I do not need to be anxious. Darvas, again. Always Darvas. Like a ghost who lives in your trading room, but not the kind that haunts, the kind that stabilizes. You brew coffee instead. You make yourself sit at the table, phone turned face down, laptop still closed. You sip slowly. You think of what he must have felt, waiting for telegrams in hotel lobbies, halfway around the world from his money. That kind of forced patience built psychological armor. Yours has to be forged manually. After breakfast, you check the chart. And yes, it's red. Not a crash, but the price pulled back by about 1.8% during pre-market. Still above your entry, still above your stop, still in the box. You feel your chest constrict anyway. Your brain offers you its favorite chorus. Get out now, preserve profit. Don't be greedy. The momentum's fading, play it safe. But you know the truth. That voice isn't wisdom. It's fear wearing a costume. This is the part of trading no one glamorizes. The wobbly days, the indecision, the red mornings where your win starts to look like a mistake. It's when your confidence tries to curl up and hide. But you check your system again. Nothing has broken. No sell signals, no stop hits, no invalidations. It's just noise. Emotional noise disguised as market insight. Darvas described this phase vividly, the phantom of doubt, as he called it. The psychological beast that appears not when you're wrong, but when you're uncertain. He wrote, "The market is not designed to please you. It is designed to exploit your impatience." You breathe that in. You write it on a post-it and stick it above your monitor. Then you do something bold. You go outside. You walk around your block like a monk. You let your thoughts swirl. You let your nervous system cool down. You're not escaping the trade. You're protecting your clarity. An hour later, you return. You glance at the screen. Still red, still above your stop. Still a trade in progress. You open your notebook. Prices testing support, no violation. Emotional discomfort, high. Action, none. You give yourself a small mental nod. It's not about pretending to be emotionless. It's about acknowledging fear without obeying it. That's the pivot you're making now. You used to think good traders were fearless. Now you know the truth. Good traders just have discipline under fire. You mark the level where your stop sits. Still intact. Still strong. You look at the candlestick again. It's holding above the range. You wouldn't enter the trade now if this were a fresh chart, but that's irrelevant. You're already in. You're playing a longer game. You're letting your process breathe. Darvas called these moments the desert between signals. No water, no action. Just patience. You remember his boxes. You draw yours again. Highs, lows, and the breakout bar. Still valid, still your plan. And then it hits you. You are no longer guessing. You're following. There's a kind of strange comfort in that. The idea that you don't need to outsmart the market. You don't need to predict. You just need to observe and act only when conditions call you. Like Darvas, you're becoming a professional waiter. So you wait. Chapter 4. The Box and the Storm. The next day, the market opens with a roar. You're already seated, screens lit. You've done your prep, scanned the news, rechecked your levels, cleared distractions. You feel alert, but grounded. Not the jittery kind of alert you used to wake with, but a readiness sharpened by ritual. And then, boom. Your stock gaps down at the open. It isn't catastrophic, just a sharp 3% drop, slicing right into the lower boundary of your Darvas box. Not past your stop, not invalid, but it flirts with the edge, testing you. Your heart rate spikes, your palms tingle. You sit up straighter. It's go time. You zoom in, you inspect the volume. The sell-off is aggressive, but not climactic. It doesn't smell like panic, more like rotation. The broader market is down too. Headlines blame inflation, or interest rates, or investor mood. It doesn't matter. The noise is always loudest when fear is trying to sell you on shortcuts. You don't move the stop. You almost do. Your hand is already hovering over the platform. You feel the voice again. The one that tells you, be smart, get out early, you'll buy back lower. But you recognize the tone. That's not analysis. It's self-preservation dressed as logic. Darvas faced the same voice. You just had fewer ways to hear it. I accepted that I would be wrong sometimes, but I would be wrong small. That's what you remind yourself. The stop is there for a reason. It is your partner in this game, your emotional anchor. You go back to your notebook and write, box retest in progress. No signal violation. Emotions elevated. Hands still. You breathe. Then something odd happens. The price stabilizes. No sudden reversal. No euphoric bounce. Just stabilization. The sellers seem to pause. Buyers don't rush in, but the bleeding stops. A narrow range forms, and it holds. Your stop remains untouched. You step back. The chart, once terrifying, now looks different. This isn't collapse. This is testing. This is the box doing what boxes do, defining structure in chaos. You feel something surprising. Respect. Not for the stock, for yourself. This is new territory. Before, this would have been a panic sell. You would have closed early, booked a tiny gain or a small scratch, and justified it with, "I'll get back in later." But later never came, because the trade wasn't broken. You were. This time is different. This time, you're becoming the trader you imagined when you first read Darvas. Not flashy, not reckless, professional. The day drifts on, the market remains choppy. The stock ends where it began, flat. But that's not the story. The story is that you didn't flinch. Darvas often said he wasn't emotional about stocks because he saw them as tickets, just labels. He didn't care about their names, only their behavior. That distance helped him stay objective. You feel yourself starting to cultivate that same distance. You're not falling in love with trades. You're observing them. You're letting them play out like actors on stage, while you sit in the audience with a checklist. As the session closes, you look at the day's candle. It tells a story of violence and restraint. Sellers tried to push it down, buyers refused. The result is indecision, but above your line. You nod to yourself. This trade might still fail. It might stop out tomorrow, but that's not the point. The point is that you acted on principle, not panic. You held the box. You protected the box. You respected the box. And in doing so, you gained something more valuable than a winning trade. You gained identity. You are no longer someone pretending to follow a system. You're becoming someone who lives one. Chapter 5. The First Exit. The next morning, the stock opens green. Not a huge spike, not fireworks, just a solid, confident candle pushing upward out of yesterday's compression. You almost don't trust it at first. After the pullback, part of you expected more weakness. But this looks clean. You sip your coffee and glance at your chart. Price is now back near the highs of the box. It's as if yesterday's drop never happened. The shape is back. The structure holds. The breakout you thought might have failed is alive. You remember what Darvas said about false weakness. Many times a stock would shake out the impatient, then continue its real move. You check your alerts. One of them pings your trailing stop threshold. The price has hit a level that, according to your plan, triggers a partial exit. You take a breath. This is the moment many traders fantasize about. The green light. The moment when you get to book profit. You think it should feel like victory, but it doesn't. It feels clinical. Like a surgeon making the first cut. You move the order window up. You adjust size. You calculate slippage. Click. Part of your position is gone. Locked in. No cheers, no fist pumps. Just execution. And that's exactly how it should be. You write it down. Partial exit executed. Plan followed. Feeling strange calm. You stare at the remaining shares. Now the psychology shifts. Before, you feared loss. Now you fear giving back gains. A different beast, same disguise. Fear, trying to get you to break your rules. You glance at the chart again. Price is moving beautifully, stair-stepping up. A clean breakout. Volume climbing. Darvas would have held. He believed in riding trends until they expired, not until they made him nervous. I only sold when the stock itself told me to sell. That's your rule, too. You trail the rest of the position, as planned, just under a new minor support level. It's not about maximizing profits, it's about obeying your own system. You feel a shift inside, a slow rebalancing of what matters. It's not the outcome that defines your success anymore. It's whether you respected your design. You used to enter trades for the thrill of profit. Now you enter trades to practice clarity. And here's the thing, you can't control the money, but you can control the execution. And that makes you powerful. The day winds down. The position floats higher still. You don't sell more, your rules don't allow it yet. You let the candle form. You let the price breathe. You're no longer swayed by the dollar signs flashing beside your ticker. You don't stare at your P&L. You don't refresh your portfolio app compulsively like you used to. You've gone deeper than money. You're learning to trust the system more than your instincts, to trust structure over sentiment, to trust process over panic. You smile faintly. You think back to the first time you ever traded a real account. You remember the way your hand shook, how the mouse trembled under your fingers. This is a different hand now. Steady, quiet, disciplined. This is a Darvas hand, and your notebook reflects it. Process over prediction, calm over control, held through the wobble, trimmed into strength, letting the system guide the rest. You close the platform for the night. You don't feel excited. You feel honest. And in this game, honesty with yourself is the rarest edge of all. Chapter 6. The Temptation of Genius. It's been 3 days since your partial exit. The rest of the position is still alive, still above your trailing stop, still obeying your structure. In theory, that should make you proud. Instead, you're irritated. Because now you think you're a genius. You've watched the price climb another 4% beyond your last exit. The trend is behaving perfectly, and for once, you're on the right side of it. So why the discontent? Because suddenly, the system feels slow, conservative. You find yourself thinking, if I had used tighter stops, I could have taken more size. If I had re-entered after the dip, I could have made double. You glance at other charts too. So many setups, so many breakouts you almost bought. You start to feel left behind, even though you're winning. This is the trap Darvas warned about. The most dangerous moment is when you are right, because you believe it was your brilliance, not your method. You stare at your platform, tempted. What if you reloaded, added more to this trade now that it's clearly strong, or rotated into one of the others just beginning to move? You open your browser, peek at stock forums. It's chaos in there, hype everywhere. Suddenly, your simple rules feel embarrassingly dull compared to the charts being paraded online. Skyrockets and moonshots. But that's just the game whispering again. This time, dressed in vanity. It's not telling you to panic. It's telling you to elevate, to be better than the rules. But Darvas never chased elevation. He chased consistency. He didn't re-enter without a box. He didn't add to a winner impulsively. He didn't shift mid-game. He waited. So you wait. You go back to your notes and write, desire to interfere rising, tempted by hindsight, must remain executor, not inventor. You pace the room. This is the hardest thing to accept. Sometimes the best trade is doing nothing. Not because you're scared, not because you're lazy, but because you've already acted. And now it's time to let that action mature. The second you break that, Just to feel busy or clever or heroic, you've stepped out of the method and into the storm. You realize something else. This trade is no longer about this one ticker. It's now a test of your identity. Are you a trader with a defined edge, or a gambler chasing dopamine with a brokerage account? You don't like the answer that flickers in your chest, but the discomfort tells you something important. This isn't a mistake. This is a mirror. So you open your notebook again and write something harder. The need to feel smart is louder than the need to feel consistent. We'll choose consistency today. And that's your win. The trade keeps rising that day. You don't touch it. You don't chase others. You don't change your stop. You don't optimize anything mid-flight. You trust the silence. Darvas did it in silence too, far from the floor, disconnected from the noise, obeying the logic of his boxes like a man following the rhythm of choreography. You are not the director of this market. You are just the one who shows up and hits your mark. So you do. And it's not exciting, but it is correct. Chapter 7. The Stop That Saves You. The following morning, you wake up late. Not by accident. You chose to. You've learned, slowly, not to sprint toward your trading screen the moment your eyes open. You now allow space. Room for the mind to wake up before it's flooded with charts and decisions. You brew coffee. You stretch. You breathe. But when you finally sit down and open your platform, the screen hits you like a slap. Your stock has dropped. Hard. A sharp, clean reversal overnight. Down over 6% at the open. No news. No warning. Just gravity. And your trailing stop? Triggered. Precisely as planned. Position? Closed. You blink at the line across your chart. That horizontal slash of discipline. It sits where your plan told it to be, not where your ego might have moved it. The market swept down, hit it, and moved on without you. You exhale. And here it is, the moment of truth. Because you're not sad. You're not angry. You're proud. Not because you got out with a gain. You did, a respectable one. But because you didn't intervene. You didn't grab the wheel when the trade began to turn. You didn't second-guess your plan. You honored it. You think of what Darvas said about stops. The only sound protection is discipline. I placed my stops where they would save me, not soothe me. You smile faintly. That's exactly what this one did. It didn't feel good to watch price fall, but it felt right to not flinch. You document it. Exit triggered. No override. Entire trade managed without interference. Result, plus 9.4%. Felt clean. You stare at the chart again. Not with attachment, but curiosity. The stock may recover, it might go higher without you, but that's not your concern anymore. Your trade is over. Your job is not to capture the top. Your job is to extract your edge, then get out of the way. You check the other tickers on your watch list. One is forming a box. Early stages, not ready. You mark it. You don't rush. Because now you understand, you are not your trades. You are the person who executes them. And that's a very different thing. Darvas used to dance in clubs in Manila and Berlin while his trades unfolded across oceans. He had no real-time data, no Twitter, no apps buzzing in his pocket. Just a box system, a broker, and an iron will. And he built a fortune with that distance. You are learning to build it too. Not the fortune, the distance. You feel it today like armor. You could have made more, but you followed your system. You left money on the table, but you kept your identity. That's not a loss, that's maturity. You realize something else. Today is a milestone. Your first full-cycle trade, start to finish without emotional override. And it wasn't perfect, but it was professional. You let the market in, you let the market out. You obeyed your own map. You resisted the siren call of hope, fear, and fantasy. You just executed. You write one final line in the notebook. The stop wasn't punishment, it was freedom. You close the chart. And for once, you don't feel the need to immediately find the next trade. You're content. Because today you are a real trader.